This video lesson will explore the main advantages and disadvantages of representative democracy as a form of democracy. We will now measure this system using 4 aspects of democracy: practicality, accountability, representation, and participation. When compared to direct democracy, it is obvious that representative democracy is a more practical system, especially for countries or states with large populations. It is true that the majority of countries in the world operate within a representative democratic system. Despite this, direct democracy in the form of referendums has proven to be manageable and practical. For the Brexit referendum in 2016, just over 33.5 million people, or 72% of the electorate, voted in person or by postal vote or ballot. However, almost 1 million postal votes were not returned. This shows that direct democracy is not necessarily impractical. However, if the electorate was required to participate in multiple referendums each year, as is the experience in the Swiss cantons, the logistics of processing potentially tens of millions of votes would be complex, time-consuming, and costly. In this sense, it could be argued that representative democracy is superior in terms of ongoing practicality considerations. Politico reported in 2016 that the cost of conducting the EU referendum, which includes the expenses incurred by counting officers in running the poll, the delivery by Royal Mail of campaign mailings, and the cost of the central count, has been estimated at £142.4 million by the Cabinet Office. While not all referendums would be participated in or organised on such a scale, it is certainly the case that referendums as a form of direct democracy are costly, and if undertaken on such a regular basis, the costs would be considerable. In a representative democracy such as the UK, where of course there is an element of direct democracy seen through referendums, general elections are usually held every 5 years, and these cost around £140 million to run. This money is derived from taxpayers' contributions. So we can see in the UK context, the cost for a general election and a large-scale referendum is almost identical, and yet one is less frequent and costly to the taxpayer. There have only been 3 national referendums as an example of direct democracy in the UK in the latter half of the 20th century, in 1975, 2011, and 2016. There have been 11 major referendums in the constituent countries of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland since 1973. In contrast, a direct democracy, as seen in the Swiss cantons, can hold around 13 national referendums in 1 year. Accountability is the second feature or aspect of democracy that we need to consider. At its heart, accountability means being answerable, taking responsibility for decisions and actions and holding oneself up for scrutiny by the people and other stakeholders. In a direct democracy, accountability can be seen through the decisions made by the people according to Rousseau's theory of general will, or via more selfish actions that serve their own interests. In a representative democracy, political representatives such as MPs in the Westminster Parliament, MSPs in the Scottish Parliament, MSS, members of the Senedd in Wales, or MLAs, members of the Legislative Assembly in Northern Ireland, can be held to account for their decisions and actions by their constituents. They may be questioned by a letter, tweet, or in the weekly surgeries they may offer. It is quite straightforward for any member of the public in the UK to find out how their political representative voted on specific issues. By doing this, the people are able to hold their political representative to account, especially if they feel that they have not been represented fairly in political decision-making. This website shown here allows simple access to such information. Say, for example, we could select this MP, Ian Murray, Labour MP for Edinburgh South. We can see his voting record and absences in the last few years. Interestingly, this website is called theyworkforyou.com, reminding us of the premise behind representative democracy. The website, run by a non-partisan UK charity, also allows the people to see where donations have been made, the property owned by the MP, and any shares held by the MP also. Such transparency is crucial to engender public confidence in representative democracy and their political representatives. During the MP's expenses scandal of 2009, trust in representative democracy and accountability was severely damaged. From duck houses to moat cleaning, phantom mortgages to swimming pool boilers, 389 MPs were exposed for questionable expenses. They were held to account publicly and they were ordered to repay a total of £1.1 million to the taxpayer. Criminal charges were also brought against 3 MPs. Clearly, a pure direct democratic system without political representatives would not experience such abuse of public money, as there would not be a requirement for their existence, as the people would represent themselves. Austrian political theorist Joseph Schumpeter believed that the people should be happy to choose political representatives who would make decisions on their behalf. He believed that the general population did not have the required knowledge to design government policy, so this should be left to professional politicians to do this on behalf of the people. His view of democracy has been described as elitist for this reason. Schumpeter's theory of democracy suggests that the people may be adequately represented by a political elite who would make educated and well-informed decisions on their behalf. But what if, when people voted to be represented by a political representative, their vote didn't really count? Elections to the Westminster Parliament use a voting system known as first past the post. This system requires each eligible voter to select one candidate or political representative from a list to represent them in Parliament. The candidate with the most votes becomes the winner and represents all of the people in that constituency. This system is very simple to understand and process. The Electoral Reform Society, a political pressure group, argues, however, that first past the post is bad for voters, bad for government, and bad for democracy. Let us now look at some statistical evidence to show why first past the post may fail to offer adequate representation. In the 2017 UK general election, Luke Graham gained around 22,000 votes in the Oakhill and South Perthshire constituency. The candidate that was placed second in this constituency was Tasmina Ahmed Sheikh for the SNP, and she gained around 19,000 votes. Almost 11,000 votes were cast for the Labour candidate and 1,700 were cast for the Lib Dem candidate. These results show that although Luke Graham gained the most votes and therefore won this seat in 2017, more people did not vote for him than did vote for him. Because he gained around 6% more votes than the second-placed candidate, he was elected as the MP for that constituency, representing everyone in Oakhill and South Perthshire, including the majority of people in that constituency that did not vote for him. In the 2015 UK general election, the political party UKIP received 3.8 million votes overall. This equated to just one seat in the House of Commons. This is because UKIP came second in around 120 constituencies, and with a winner-takes-all voting system such as first past the post, these votes were in effect wasted. 1 in every 7 people in England voted for UKIP in 2015, and the party received 12.7% of the total vote share. Yet people were not adequately represented in Parliament. This is a clear example of how unrepresentative some representative democracies can be. The majority of countries today do not use first past the post as their voting system, favouring proportional representation instead. This is where roughly the percentage of votes received equates to the percentage of seats acquired in a parliament. This can result in a coalition government, which can be argued to be chaotic due to the competing agendas of the political representatives. Italy's coalition government is a case in point, as it's made up of the centre-left Democratic Party and the anti-establishment Five Star Movement. Both parties are long-standing enemies. It is the case, however, that representative democracies that use first past the post as their voting systems have the ability to represent the people. It can be argued that professional political representatives are engaged in the political process, and if they fail to adequately and fairly represent their constituents, they may be voted out by the people at the next election. That said, tactical voting and the issue of safe seats in some constituencies may skew results of elections, culminating in an unrepresentative House of Commons. The people can participate in a representative democracy despite not representing themselves directly. Voting for their preferred candidate is just one example. They can also stand as a political representative themselves. In Scotland, anyone aged 18 or over, and a British citizen or eligible Commonwealth citizen or citizen of any EU member state can stand as an MSP. They can stand as a member of a political party or as an independent candidate. There are currently 2 independent MSPs in the Scottish Parliament today. People are also able to participate in a representative democracy by joining a pressure group in order to influence political representatives and place their issue on the political table. An example of such a group is Stonewall. Stonewall is an outsider pressure group committed to supporting and protecting the rights of the LGBT community. The group has lobbied the UK government to ensure equality for LGBT people. As a result of the work of this group, the UK Parliament passed the Civil Partnerships Act in 2004 and legalised gay marriage in the Same-Sex Couples Act of 2013. The group has also helped to achieve the equalisation of the age of consent, lifted the ban on LGB people serving in the military, and secured legislation which would allow same-sex couples to adopt. This shows clearly how people can participate in politics and political decision-making by influencing political representatives to bring about progressive legislative change. The actions of Stonewall and other pressure groups of this nature have helped to bring about greater equality for all people, irrespective of their gender or sexual orientation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other political representatives were held to account by the British people and media via daily briefings. These political representatives discussed statistical evidence and delivered vital messages to the British public designed to limit the spread of the virus. The public were able to participate in this process by posing questions in order to gain clarity. On the first day of the public being allowed to ask questions, 15,000 requests were made. It was made clear to individuals that they must not ask questions that were only relevant to themselves. Questions were then selected by an independent polling organisation and broadcast on television. Only one public question per briefing was permitted. While opportunities to participate were limited in this case, this could possibly be excused by the necessity of sharing vital government information and instructions about the virus.